If you think you're not good enough, I can totally relate to how you're feeling, and I would like to share a story of mine that would hopefully help you in some way, no matter how small it is. Back when I was in secondary school, our classes were segregated according to our academic results. There were 4 classes in my cohort, E1 being the better ones, while E4 are the less better ones. Just to put in a little disclaimer here, I personally don't think those in E1 are in any way better than those in other classes, but the education system in Singapore here back then made it such that it was viewed that way by everyone. I think currently the system has changed to try and eliminate this biasness, but that's just how it was several years back. So I was put into E4 when I first entered secondary school, but we were given opportunities to stream into a different class during our streaming year, which was after the second year in secondary school if I never remember wrongly. As I was studying really hard in my first 2 years of secondary school, I had this impression embedded in me that those in E1 are a different breed. Why? Because our teachers would constantly share who are the top students for each subject after every exam, and there was never once that those top students failed to be from E1. It gave us all that impression that we are from entirely different leagues. I studied really hard leading up to my streaming year, and I achieved results that frankly surprised me, as I thought I would never have been able to see those marks. Following that, we were sorted into our new classes, and surprisingly, I was streamed into E1. I was happy as it was a sign that my hard work was recognized, but at the same time, also where things started going downhill. I was one of the few newer students that entered class E1, and the bulk of them remains to be the main core of the previous E1 batch. Being surrounded by these people that I thought was from a different league, it puts a lot of unnecessary pressure onto me, or rather, pressure that I unknowingly put on myself. I had this constant nagging feeling that I wasn't good enough to be here, and that any success that I've ever achieved amidst them was all by luck and not because of how hard I've worked to achieving it. Whenever I scored better than the previous top scorer of a particular subject, I kept telling myself that it was all luck, that he or she probably made a couple of careless mistakes, or that they weren't serious since grades aren't all that matters, and getting 100 or 95 doesn't matter at the end of the day in their eyes. I would always downplay my achievements, and that may sound good to others because I'm being humble and keeping myself in check, but that puts my confidence at its lowest, which translates to other aspects of my life such as sports, where I suddenly found myself being the last man standing and counted on to win the game. Guess what? I downplayed my own abilities at a sport that I was good at and lost the game. That thought that I wasn't good enough to be amidst these elites held me back on what I could truly achieve. Here's another story that everyone pretty much faces when they think they're not good enough: the dating scene. A couple of years ago when I was in university, I saw this really beautiful girl that was taking the same class as me. She dresses well, she speaks really well, and has no problems making friends with strangers. She was popular and have many guy friends. In my head, I thought that she was out of my league, that she was too pretty and have no shortage of guys that she could choose from. Why would she choose me? This feeling of inferiority and not being good enough held me back, and I found myself always being at a distance from her, because what's the point? It's not like I have a chance anyways. I had a couple of instances where I managed to talk to her, but it was simply because of circumstances and not because I went up and talked to her. However, as the days go by, I found myself feeling very uneasy. I mean, she's the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. I love her bubbly personality that never fails to light up my boring grey life, and the thought that I never gave myself the chance to ask her out haunts me. If I don't ask her out now, when would I ever? Yes, she may seem to be out of my league, and I'm not good enough for her. Yes, she may reject me, but you know what? Being rejected by a pretty girl doesn't sound that bad if you think about it. I mean, it's like buying the lottery. It's kind of a given that you'll lose if you gamble because of the insane odds. But when you break all of nature's laws and won the lottery for some unknown reason, you'll be glad that you have at least tried. You know what I mean? Same thing here. I'm pretty sure I'll be rejected by her, but at least I could tell myself that I've tried asking her out. So of all the days in the year, I asked her out on Valentine's Day, and guess what? She agreed. And guess what again? We've been together ever since for several years now, and currently planning for our future. From both of this story, you can pretty much tell that majority of why we are constantly thinking we are not good enough is because of no one else but ourselves. Yes, I know people could be mean and say that you're not good enough, but you have to realize this one thing: you cannot control what others would do, but you can change how you look at things. If you found yourself getting caught in the rain, you could either curse and swear over something that you have zero control over, or you could control how you perceive the situation and just take it as a cold, refreshing shower after a long day. In my very first story, I was doing pretty well in school, and clearly, I was by no means stupid or not good enough. The results that I've worked so hard for doesn't lie. It's clearly written on my report card that I was delivering results, and I could compete with those that I initially thought were elites. But something in my mind kept holding myself back and saying that I wasn't good enough, which ended up making me hold back on my true potential and competitiveness. Same thing in my second story. There's no such thing as being out of your league. No one is out of your league. This idea of putting people in different leagues simply because they look better or they are richer is outrageous. If you simply look at these good-looking people that you thought were out of your league as just a normal human being that's just simply different from you, not in terms of this stupid idea of leagues, but just different because everyone is unique, you feel that there's no need to feel that you're not good enough. That pretty girl across the street that you saw, she's not too good for you or in a different league. She's just a different, unique human, just like you. That's all. As simple as that. When you start to have this mentality that there's no such thing as being out of a league, you'll realize that there's nothing to be afraid about on going up to her and just talk to her. You have to sink this into your mind. You're good enough. You're good enough as you are. Yes, there are definitely things that you can improve on, but in terms of whether you think you have the rights to be where you are if you have worked hard to reach there, or that you're contemplating you're good enough to attempt something you have never tried, I would like to emphasize this again. You have worked hard to reach where you are. You are good enough. Have some faith in your past self for bringing you here, or at least in your present self to bring you to the future that you desire. You deserve this happiness. You're good enough.